Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of our Python data structure series. I'm Musa Peter and today we are going to dive into dictionaries, which is an essential Python data structure that stores data in key value pairs. So we will learn how to create dictionaries, how to access and modify their contents, and also explore the common operations that we can use to perform with them. So let us get started on the key definition of a dictionary, or even on the main definition of a dictionary. So a dictionary is a collection. It is actually a collection of key value pairs. It is a collection of key value pairs. And when we talk about key value pairs, in this case, we have two main words, or even two main keywords that are used to describe a dictionary. And the first one is the key, and the second one is the value. So think of this as a real dictionary whereby you look for the meanings or even you search for the meanings of words. So in this case, the word is the key. The word is the key. And then the definition is the value. So the word is the key and the definition is the value. So take an example. Assume you're looking for the word, for the meaning of the word teacher. The meaning of the word teacher. So a teacher is maybe a person who is a person who guides. Maybe it is a person who guides learners. That is the definition of a teacher, person who guides learners. So in this case, we have the key and we have the value. We have the key and the value. So for our case, this would be the key. The teacher is the key in our case. It is the key. It is what we are looking for, its meaning. And then the definition is the value. It is a value. So when you talk about key value pairs, we are majorly describing, or even we are majorly talking about the word and its meaning, the word and its meaning. So for dictionaries, you'll be having keys and you'll also be having the values. You'll be having the values, and that is why we call them key value pairs. Now, you can also think of it as a phone book. You can also think of it as a phone book, whereby you have the name of the person. You have the name of the person. So the name of the person in this case is the key. And then each name has a phone number. So the phone number is the value. So we have the key. We have the key. We have the key. And then we have the value. So the name of that person is the key. That is the key. And then the phone number is the value. That is the value. And that is what we mean when we talk about key value pairs. So dictionaries are made up of keys and values. They're made up of keys and value. Now let us proceed to the main characteristics of dictionaries. The main characteristics of dictionaries, number one, is that each item has a key and a value. So a dictionary is defined by key value pairs in this case. So each key is actually made up of values. Each key is associated with a specific value. And then the other thing is that dictionaries are usually unordered. They contain values that are unordered. So the values are unordered, just like in a set. The values do not follow a specific order. And this was actually before Python 3.7. So for Python 3.7 and maybe the later versions, Python actually maintains the insertion order. So for dictionaries that are actually made using the Python versions 3.7 and maybe more advanced versions, what happens is that Python maintains their order, the insertion order. So the order in which the dictionaries or even the keys and the values were actually input, they are usually maintained. So this is another characteristic. The values were unordered for the Python 3.7 and earlier versions. And then later after that, or even later on, the values started being ordered after Python 3.7. And then the values in this case are actually mutable. That means that they can be changed We can add values, we can actually remove values, we can also change the items. So we always say that dictionaries are usually mutable. They are mutable. That means that you can add values onto them, you can remove or even change values. And then we usually have what we call unique keys. Each key must be unique, not duplicate keys, just like in a set. A dictionary does not allow for duplication. It doesn't allow you to duplicate keys. So you can't duplicate keys. You can't duplicate keys. And then we also have fast lookup. It is usually very, very fast. It is very, very quick to find a value by its key. So this one is actually a very, very fast method of getting the value that is associated to a specific key. So you can be able to get a value that is associated with a specific key. You can think of it as, assume you want to look for the number for a specific number that is associated to a specific person. So for you to be able to get a person's number, you have to search them by their name. So if you search their name, you'll be able to get the number associated with them. So this one allows us to get the values associated with a specific key. And then the other one is that keys must be immutable. That means that the keys can be strings, they can be numbers, they can be tuples. And in this case, when you talk about them being immutable, that means that the keys should not be changeable. We can't change the keys. We can't change the keys. So the keys, either they are strings, either they are numbers, or maybe tuples, they should not be changeable. They should not be changeable. Now, this is a general syntax. This is a general syntax. So it uses curly brackets just like they use curly brackets just like a set. But now the difference between a dictionary and a set is that for a dictionary, we do not have the key value pairs. But for a dictionary, we use key value pairs. So for sets, you won't have the key value pairs. But for a dictionary, you will have this. So you'll have key one. Key one can be the name of the person and then their number. Key two is the name of the second person and their number. Key three can be the name of the third person and their phone number. So that is now the key value pairs. And these ones are actually separated using colons. So we use a colon for each key and each value. We use a colon. So colons are actually used to separate the values. When we were talking about sets, we say that sets are actually separated using a comma, not a colon, a comma. So that is another difference between a set and also a dictionary. So when do we use dictionaries? We majorly use dictionaries when we want to look up for values by a meaningful key. So whenever we want to get a specific value associated with a key, we use these dictionaries. So when we have related data, like a person's name, their age and city, we can also use dictionaries to get the data that is related to a specific person. And then when we need to first look up by using a specific key, we can also use dictionaries to get values associated with a specific key. Now, we say that the general syntax for creating a dictionary is the name of the dictionary. For example, my dict, then is equals to, then the curly brackets in this case. And then within the curly brackets, you will have the keys and the values. You will have the keys and the values. So for example, let us create a simple dictionary that contains the name of the person, the age, and the course. So for this case, it is a student. We are creating a dictionary called student. So student is equals to, then curly brackets. And then we have the first key. So the first key is the name. So what is the name of that person? It is MUSA. The name of the person is MUSA. So this is the first value. Then the second key is age. Age. Then what is the age of MUSA? 22. And then the third one is, the third key is course. What course is MUSA taking? Python. So this is the third value. So we have the key, the course, which is now the key, and then the value is Python. So if we print student, it's going to return all this. It's going to return a dictionary that contains all these values. So let us print out that dictionary. And you can see we have name, MUSA, age 22, and course Python. We can also create an empty dictionary, and later on we add details onto that dictionary. And how do we create an empty dictionary? It is the same way we create an empty list and also an empty empty tuple. So for this one, the empty dictionary is called details, then is equals to, then we use curly brackets. And then inside the curly brackets, there is nothing. So that is an empty dictionary. So if we create that, if we run that, Python automatically creates that empty dictionary. And then we can now add details to that dictionary. So what we do is that we write the name of the dictionary, which is details. And then inside that, we have now square brackets. So square brackets are used to enclose the first or even the key. So city is equals to, so city is the key, and then is equals to Nairobi. Nairobi is now the value. So we add a new key value pair, and then we print details. So if we print details, we are going to see anything that we've already added onto that dictionary. I can also do the same. I can add something else. Maybe let me add something else. Then I'm just going to change the city. Let me change city to maybe country. Country is equals to maybe Kenya. Country is equals to Kenya. And then let me print out details. Now, if I print out details, you can see that we have added a new key value pair. So the first one was city, which was Nairobi, and the second one is the country, which is Kenya. So that is what we do. Now we can also create an empty dictionary using the dict. So instead of using the curly brackets like this, we can also use the dict. Then whenever we use the dict, what follows is not an empty dictionary, but parentheses. So we can create an empty dictionary using the dict. So the person is equals to an empty dictionary, dict, then followed by parentheses, like that. And then we can now add values. Onto our dictionary. The first value is name. So the name of the person is Asha. And then their age is 20. So we've added two key value pairs. The first key was name, and the second key was age. And I hope this makes sense. So we enclose this within square brackets, that the keys within square brackets, if we are adding them to an empty dictionary, and then we can now print out the output after adding those two key value pairs. So let us run them. So after running that, you'll be able to see the name. The name is Asha and the age is 20. We can also create an empty dictionary using the dict keywords. In this case, these are actually keyword arguments. So we can also use that keyword, the dict keyword, and that will actually help us to create the second one. So for this one, we were creating an empty dictionary. But now we are creating a dictionary without using the curly brackets. So if you use the curly bracket, then you don't use the dict. If you've used the curly brackets, in this case, for our case here, we've used the curly brackets. So we are not going to use the dict keyword together with the curly brackets. But if we fail to use the curly brackets, then we have to use the dict keyword. So in this case, student is equals to, we are changing this, we are changing that, or even we are having all those values. So I have the key and the name, the key and the value, the key and the value, and the key and the value. So in this case, I have three key value pairs. The name, the age, and the course. Those are the keys. Then MUSA 22 and Python, those are the values. So then I enclose that with dict. Just like the same way we did with an empty dictionary, but now we have to input the values within the dictionary. And then we can now print out student. We print out student. And if we print out student, you're going to have all the keys associated with their values. So I will have name, MUSA, age, 22, and then course, Python. And that is what we are going to have. And you can see that Python recognizes that as a dictionary. So for you to be able to know that that is a dictionary, you have to see the curly brackets. the curly brackets, and also the key value pairs. Now, we can also create a dictionary from a list of tuples. We can create a dictionary from a list of tuples in this case. For example, my first tuple is this. We have this as my first tuple. This is my first tuple. In that case, we say that tuples are usually enclosed using parentheses. You enclose a tuple using parentheses. So that is my first tuple, my second tuple separated by a comma, and then my third tuple separated by a comma. So the three are actually three tuples. They are three tuples. But now, whenever we enclose them within the square brackets, they become a list of tuples. So this is a list of tuples. So data is equals to these three tuples, which is now a list of tuples. So for me to be able to create a dictionary from that list, I have to use the dict keyword. So user is equals to dict into brackets, the name of our list. What is our list? Our list was called data. So we are converting a list into a dictionary. So we can change a list into a dictionary. We can actually change a list into a dictionary. We can change a list into a dictionary. And that is it. So once we change that into a dictionary, the next thing is to print out the user or even our dictionary. And once we print out that, you're going to see the contents within your dictionary. So it's going to have all the values. So I have the key name and its value. I have the key age and its value, which is 25, and the key city, which is Nairobi in that case. So those are the different ways in which we can use to create a dictionary. Besides that, we can also create a dictionary from two lists using the zip method or even the zip keyword. So we can actually use the zip keyword. Zipping means combining two values or even maybe two groups of items together. So we can zip them together to become one. Now, for example, my keys are name, age, and course. That is a list. What makes us know that it is a list? It is the values are actually enclosed within square brackets, and then they are also separated using commas. So that is a list. So my keys are this, and then my values are also this. This is a list of values. My values include Peter, 23, and data science. So in this case, the name is Peter, the age is 23, and the course is data science. So we can zip them. So what we do is that we come up with a new dictionary called students. So student is equals to, we first of all zip the values. So I'm going to zip the keys and the values. Zipping means combining them. So we combine the keys and the value. So the first value within the keys will match with the second value. Will match with the first value within the values list in this case. So name will actually match with Peter, age will match with 23, and course will match with data science. So we zip them. We are zipping them. So once we zip them, the next thing is to convert. Remember, it was a list. We now convert that list into a dictionary. And we say that for us to be able to convert a list into a dictionary, we have to use the dict keyword. We have to use the dict keyword before the list. And that is what we have. So we have our keys and the values. So we zip them together. That means that we combine the two lists into a dictionary using the dict keyword. And then let us print out the output of the student dictionary. And what we have is this. So this is the final output. Name is equals to Peter, age is 23, and course is data science. Okay, so this is a basic example of a dictionary. So for example, this is a person's dictionary that contains the name being Alice, the age is 30, city being New York, and then job, or even Alice is a data scientist in this case. So we can actually run that, and then we print out that dictionary to see what we have. So if we print out the person's dictionary or even this specific dictionary, it's going to show out the the values. It's going to show out the values against the keys. So we have the name being Alice, age 30, and city being New York, and job being data scientist. So in short, I said that a dictionary is just like it is just like a normal dictionary, whereby you have a word and its definition, a word and its meaning. So for example, in this case, Alice is representing the name. 30 represents the age. New York represents the city where Alice comes from. Then data scientist represents the job performed by Alice. Okay, so how do we access items in a dictionary? How do we access items in a dictionary? There are two main ways in which we can access items in a dictionary. For example, assume we want to access the name. We want to access the name of a person, the name of the person from this dictionary. Remember, this is the dictionary that we were having, the person's dictionary as the name, the age, city, and job. So if we want to access the name, in that case, we will just, first of all, type the name of the dictionary, then followed by the key. And you enclose the key in square brackets. You enclose the key in square brackets. So you'll have the name of the dictionary followed by the name of the key. This is just additional information. What I have before, this is just additional information. You can omit it. It is just additional information, or even a string that I need it besides the name, or even besides the keys. So if I run this, if I run that, I'm going to have the name being Alice. So the name of the person is Alice. Now, if I omit this, let me just delete this so that you see the difference, why I was saying that is just additional information. So if I remove that, then you're going to have the name being Alice. So the name is actually the value that was matched with that specific key. So if I wanted all the names, then I would just search for the names. I mean, for the values that are actually matching with that specific key, and I will get them. I will actually get them. So that is it. So the name is equals to Alice. If I want the age, then I'll just write the name of the dictionary followed by the specific key. Our key is age. Same to city. So in this case, I will also have the name of the dictionary followed by the key, which is city. The key, which is city. And once I call them out, they are going to give me the values, not the keys, the values. So age is 30 and the city is New York. I can also do the same. Let me add something else. So if I have, for example, person, and then square brackets, and then the job. What job is performed by that person? Job. And then run that. So the job performed by that person is a data scientist. This person is a data scientist. And that is what happens. That is what happens. So we can actually access the items within a dictionary by calling out the keys. If we call out the keys, then they will give us the values. Now we can also use the .get keyword. In this case, we can also use the .get keyword method. This one is actually safer and it does not error or even return errors if the key is not found. Now, for example, if in this case, if I had used something like this, assume I had used a key that is not there. Assume I had used a key like a job with a double B. Remember, there is no such key. So if I run that, I'm going to get an error. So if you realize that you are getting such errors, what you do is that you can use the .get keyword. That will ensure that you do not get errors, or even it doesn't return an error if the key is not found. So for example, if I run this person and then .get job, this one will actually return. It will actually return the value associated with the word job, or even with the keyword job, which is now data scientist. Now, but assume I used something else. Salary. Assume I looked for that specific keyword, salary. What will be returned? What will be returned? So if I run that, I'm going to get this specific keyword. So what I did is that we have the name of the dictionary, which is person, and then dot get. What are we looking for? We are looking for this specific key, which is salary. So if this specific key is not found, then return not specified. Return that, not specified. Yeah. Let me delete it and I show you what we have. So for example, if you do not have that, then it returns none. There is no column called salary. I mean, there is no key called salary. There is no key called salary. That is why it is returning none. So instead of that, you can add something else here that is going to be returned. So you can add return not specified if that specific key is not found. And that is what you're going to have. Now, how do we add, modify, or even remove items from a dictionary? Remember, we say that dictionaries are actually mutable. Dictionaries are very, very mutable. You can actually add new key value pairs. You can also modify existing values. Remember, in this case, not keys, but you are modifying the values, not the keys. And then you can also remove the key value pairs. You can remove some of them. Now, take an example. We have our old dictionary, which is now the person's dictionary. So let us print it, or even let us call it the starting dictionary. Let us call it the starting dictionary. So we print it out. And our starting dictionary has the name, it has the age and the city. So the name is Alice, whose age is 30, and she lives in New York. So we can add a new key value pair called the email. So how do we add that? We just write the name of the dictionary, which is person, and then followed by the key that we are adding. Which key are we adding? We are adding a new key called email. So email is equals to, and then we give the name of, we give the email of that specific person, which is alice@gmail.com or even at example.com. And then we can now print it out, that specific dictionary. We can print it out. And what we have after printing it out, we have now Alice, we have the age, we have the city, and her email. So this specific part here has been added. So we've already added that specific key value pair onto that dictionary. We can also modify an existing value, not an existing key. We are modifying a specific value. Values in this case, they are Alice, 30, New York, and Alice at example.com. We can't modify the keys in this case. So the keys are actually immutable, but the values are mutable. So for example, if I want, I can change the age of that person to that one. Alice was 30, I can change that to that one in our case. So if what we do is that we write the name of the dictionary followed by the key that we are interested in changing, and then we modify it using a specific value. So is equals to that one. And then we can now call it out. We can now call the name of the dictionary or even print it out to see our output. So the value after updating the age, remember this is a specific string that I just want to print it out, then followed by a comma, then the name of the dictionary. So after updating the age becomes that one. You can see that the age becomes that one. We can also remove a specific key value pair. So how do we remove a specific key value pair? So if we want to remove a specific key value pair, then we use the delete option. So we use DEL, delete. So in this case, we ensure that we have the name of the dictionary followed by the key that we want to remove. So our key here is city. We want to remove the city key. So we ensure that all that is preceded by the DEL or even delete keyword. So DEL, then followed by the name of the dictionary, and then followed by the name of the key that we want to delete. So once we remove a specific key, it removes the value associated with that key. So let us call it out. So once we delete that, you're going to see that we now have the name being Alice, the age being that one, and the email being this. So the city has been removed. This one, the city, which was New York, has been removed. That is how to remove a specific key from a dictionary. Once you remove a city, once you remove a key, it also removes the value associated with it. You can also use the pop to remove and return a value. So for example, you can remove a specific value from your dictionary. For example, my email is equals to person and then pop email. So in this case, we are removing email. We are removing the email. So once we remove the key email, it is also going to remove the value associated with that specific key, which was email. So email is equals to this. So now we want to print out popped, what was popped. We want to remove we want to print out what was popped, what was removed. Popping means removing. Remember when we were discussing about sets, we say that when we were discussing about tuples, we say that the pop is majorly used to remove a random figure. It is usually used to remove a specific value within your tuple. So for dictionaries, pop, whenever we use pop, we can add a specific key. What key do we want removed, or even what is the name of the key that we are interested in removing? So pop, then followed by email. In that case, it removes that specific key, and then we can now print out the email. We can print out that specific key that was removed. So in this case, the email key was removed. So that means that the value that was removed was alice@example.com. So once we remove that specific key, it also removes the keyword. It also removes the value, not the keyword. It also removes the value. Okay, so after removing that, or even after popping, let us call out the initial dictionary and see what we are going to have. So after that, you can now see that after popping, we only remain with the name and the age. We have now remained with only two. Remember, initially we had three: name, age, and email. But we popped out the email. We popped the email. So what remains is the name and the age. Those are the two keys that remain within our dictionary. And that is all about adding, modifying, and removing items. So one main point, or even one main takeaway, is that for dictionaries, we can modify the values, but we cannot modify the keys. We can add new key value pairs and we can delete key value pairs, but we cannot change a specific key, but we can change its value. That is it. Now, dictionary methods. We have very useful methods that are used together with dictionaries to get specific values, or even the keys, or even specific aspects of a dictionary. And the first one is keys. So keys is used to get all the specific keys. So the keys keyword is used whenever you want to get all the keys. So for example, if I want to get all the keys from this dictionary, I will just use the keys. I will use the dictionary, then keys. This will get all the keys from that dictionary. Now, values is used to get all the values from a dictionary. And then items is used to get all the key and their values. So it is used to get all the key value pairs from a dictionary. So what happens is that it returns the key and the value, the key and the value. So if I want the keys and the values from a dictionary, I will use the items. And then we have get key and then comma default. This one gets the value safely. It gets the value safely. Remember, we say that whenever you use get will actually return none when there is an error. Instead of returning an error, to return none, like in this case. For this one, it returned none. Whenever you use get, it will return none. If there is an error arising, it returns none. So we also have pop. Pop removes and returns a value. It will remove a specific value from, or even a specific key from a dictionary. Then we have update dict. This one adds or even updates multiple items within a dictionary. And then clear is used to remove all the items from a dictionary, just like in tuples. Clear is used to remove all the items from a dictionary. Now we are going to be working with our Parsons dictionary. So we can get all the keys. Assume we want to get all the keys from that dictionary. So we are going to print parsons.keys. So we call out parsons.keys. Remember, initially we were using parsons dot, and then we now have the key. We write the key that we are interested in. But in this case, it's parsons.keys. So that one will return, it will actually return all the keys. To return all the keys. Now let me print out that. So you can see that our keys include name, age, city, and job. Name, age, city, and job. And that is it. We can also change our keys. We can change our keys into a list. We can change them into a list. In this case, remember they are still dictionary keys, so we can change them into a list by preceding them with the keyword list. So if we precede that with the keyword list, then Python will convert that into a list. So this is the list of keys that we are having. Now we can do the same for values. So what we do is that we write the name of the dictionary followed by .values, and that will give me all the values. So the values include Alice, 30, New York, data scientist. This is the name, the age, the city, and the job. So we can also change these values into a list by preceding them with the keyword list, and that one will change them into a list. And that is what we have. So you can see the change in the parentheses. In this was parentheses. This was parentheses, but now we are using square brackets. That tells you that it is a list, values as a list. We can also get the key value pairs. In that case. So if I want the keys and their values, then I'll write the name of the dictionary followed by .items. And that will give you each value and each key. That is the key and its value. So you can see it's like a list of tuples. It is like a list of tuples. But in this case, it is just a dictionary. So we have the key and its value. The key and its value. It's a key value pair. So it looks like actually a list of tuples. So we can actually change that into a list. So we change that into a list, what we had initially, and what you're going to have. Python is going to change that into a list. So we have square brackets to show that it is a list. And then inside it, we have this tuple, we have this tuple, and they're actually tuples, many tuples within a list. And that is what happens. So that is a dictionary. That is how we can actually get the values within a dictionary. Now, besides that, we've already discussed about pop and get. We can use the clear. For example, if I want to clear all the items within that dictionary, then I can write this persons dot clear. Okay, I used persons instead of persons. So yeah, so you can use the keyword clear to actually delete everything from your tuple. So if I want to know that everything has been cleared, I can just call out that specific tuple and it's going, that specific dictionary, and it's going to be blank. You can see that what I'm having here is a blank dictionary. It's a dictionary that is blank. That tells you that tells you that everything has been cleared. We can also update different items within a dictionary, just the same way that we updated these values, just the same way that we updated these values. Age is equals to that one. We can use update, and that would actually update several values. That would actually help in updating several values within a dictionary. Now, the next one is how to iterate through dictionaries. So we can loop through dictionaries in several ways using what we call a for loop. Using what we call a for loop. We can actually use what we call a for loop. We can use a for loop to iterate through a dictionary. So we are still going to be using our Python dictionary, which contains the name, the age, and the city. So what we do is that we are going to have these ones being the keys and these ones being the values. So Alice, 30, and New York, those are the values. Name, age, and city, those are the keys. They are the keys. So we are going to say for each key in Python, print the key. Print the key. Print the key. So for the key in Python, print the key. Print the key. Print the key. Let me just have that. That is a bit basic for you guys. And you can see we have now these three keys: name, age, and city. This is just additional information. This is just additional information. That is just additional information. Okay, maybe I can separate it. I can separate it, print, and then I can have this. I can have that. Okay, just delete that because it's going to interfere, take us a lot of time. So this is what we have. So we now have the keys. So instead of using this, instead of using the keys, that is person.keys, we can just use a for loop. So for the key in person, print the key, and it's going to give you the different keys in this case. We can also do the same for the values. So for value in person.values, print the value. Print the value. This is what happens, print the value. So I can just replace that with value, print the value, and then we run that. Then enclose that in brackets. Okay, so now you can see the values. We have Alice, we have 30, we have New York. Alice, 30, New York. Those are the different values. These are the different values. So we are actually using iterations. Like we are trying in as much as possible to get the specific values for that specific dictionary. So for the first one, we got their keys. So for the key in person, print the key, and that will give you the keys. So Python recognizes the key. And then we can also do the same. We can also do the same for value in person.values. We can also do the same. So for value in person.values, print the value. The values are these ones, Alice, 30, and New York. And once we do that, this is what we get. We can also do the same for the items. So for the key, comma, value. Remember, in this case, we are interested in the key and its value. So for the key, comma, value in person.items. .items. So that is actually the name of, this is the name of the dictionary. So print the key, then colon, and the value. The key and its value. Now, in this case, if I run this, you can see it's giving me an error. Two main values to unpack. Expected to. We have two main values to unpack in that case. So that was an error that was resulting because I did not specify what I am interested in. I did not specify what I was interested in. Remember, it was giving me an error, too many values to unpack. Because in this case, I was not specific to what am I interested in, what am I unpacking. So in this case, I'm packing the items. I'm packing the items. So for that specific dictionary, which is now the person, I have to add the keyword dot items. Items will now give you the key and the value. So we are unpacking the key and its value. So print the key and the value. And this is what we get. Name, Alice, age, 30, city, New York. That is what happens. So that is now that is the concept of iterations using the for loop. The next one is nested dictionaries. Now, nested dictionaries means these are dictionaries that contain other dictionaries within them. And these are actually very, very important for complex data. So you can have a dictionary of students where each student is also a dictionary. For example, I have students is equals to, so this is my initial dictionary. This is my initial dictionary. That is my initial dictionary. And then within that dictionary, I also have some other dictionaries. So I have student one, I have student two, and I have student three. So if you look at this, each dictionary is separated using a comma. So student one, that is the first dictionary. So it is separated from student two using a comma. So I have a comma there. Then student two is another dictionary, which is separated from student three using a comma. So these are now multiple dictionaries that are contained within a specific dictionary. And then for each student, I have the keys and the values, name, age, grade, and name, age, grade. So let us print out that dictionary. It is a nested dictionary. It's actually a nested dictionary that contains information about different students. And if we print out that, so all students is equals to student one, this is the information for student one. Student two, we have that. Student three, we also have that. Now, how do we access nested data? How do we access nested data? So for nested data, we use the concept of a looping. But in this case, we use the concept of indexing. But in this case, we do not use the indexes. We just mention the name. So for example, we are going to assume we are interested in the name of the first student, the name of the first student. Assume we are interested in the name of the first student. The name of the first student, what do we do? So we call out our dictionary, which was students. And then within students, we had student one, student two, and student three. So what are we interested in? The name of the first student. So we enclose that within square brackets, student one. And then which is the key that we are looking for? We are looking for the name, and we print that. So if we run that, we are going to get students one name is equals to John. So that is the name of the first student. Now, if we want to access the grade of the second student, the second student's grade in this case, we are going to do the same. So what we do is that we write the name of the dictionary, which is students, followed by the dictionary within that dictionary. In this case, we are looking for the grade within the second dictionary, which is this. So we are looking for the grade within this second dictionary, which is students two. So what we do is that we have student two, and then followed by the grade. You enclose all these within square brackets, and then run that. So once we run that, we are going to get the student two's grade is 92. So student two's grade is 92. That is the grade of the second student, 92. That is what we get. We can also loop through a nested dictionary. We can also loop through, just like we said, we can use a for loop. So this is just, it's just like a title. If you want a title, you just put it in single or double quotation marks. So this is just like a title, print all student grades. So assume we are interested in all the student grades in this case. So we are going to use we are going to use a nested, we are going to use a loop to iterate through the nested dictionary. So for the student ID, so we have the student ID and the student info. Remember, these are actually, they're just titles that we can change. You can say student, maybe students info. You can also maybe use something else, maybe like ID and info. Something, just you can come up with your own names. So for student ID, comma, student info, in students.items. Now, items gives me the key and the value. It gives me the key and the value. So in this case, the number of values here must also be equal to the number of values that I have here. So this means that I will have the student ID, I will have the student ID and the info, student ID and the info. So in this case, for this dictionary, which is now the student's dictionary, I'm going to have the items being the key and the value. So the student ID would represent the key, and then the student info would represent the value. So we print out the name, the student info name, and the student info grade. That is what we are printing. Okay, let me take you back to this. So student one, that is the first value. Within my outer dictionary, student one is going to be the student ID. Student two and student three, that represents the student ID, because that is now, we are having a dictionary within another dictionary. So I only have two sections here, student ID and student info. So student ID is going to represent student one, student two, and student three. That is what will happen. And then that is now the first key. Then the second key is now the information contained within that. So that one is going to be, this one is going to be now the student info, the student info. That is the name, the age, and the grade, the student info. So from now, the student info, we are interested in the name and the grade. So we print out that for each student ID. And you can see we have the student name, John, got 85 from, that is the first student. The second student, Emma, got 92. And the third student, Michael, got 78. So we've gotten the name and their grades from the three dictionaries. The name John got 85, Emma got 92, and Michael got 72. And in that case, we've used a for loop. We've actually used a for loop. Then the next concept and the last concept is dictionary comprehension. So just like list comprehensions, we can create dictionaries in one line. We can actually create a dictionary in one line, and that makes it a bit easier for you to actually work around with dictionaries, and it also saves time. So for example, assume I want to create a dictionary that contains squares, square numbers, squares from 1 to 6. What I do is that I will have the name of the dictionary, squares is equals to, then curly brackets, then I will have x colon x raised to power 2, x raised to power 2. So this means that you pick the value of x, raise it to power 2, square it. For x, so the values of x are in the range of 1 to 6. That is from 1 to 6. Remember, we see that the last value is always not included. So it will be 1 to 5. So the values of x will be from 1 to 5. So you pick 1, square it, you get 1. 2, square it, you get 4. 3, square it, you get 9. 4, square it, you get 16. And 5, square it, you get 25. So in this case, my dictionary will have the value of x and its square. So it will have the value of x and its square. For example, if x is 1, its square would be 1. If the value of x is 4, its square would be 4. So if we run that, we now have our dictionary. 1, 1, 2, and its value is 2 squared, which is 4. 3, its value is 3 squared, which is 9. 4, its value is 4 squared, which is 16. And that is it. We can also create a dictionary from 2 lists. For example, I have names being Alice, Bob, and Charlie, then the ages being 25, 30, and 35. So for this one, the names are going to be my keys, and then the ages are going to be my values for this specific case. So what we are going to do, we have to zip them first, such that Alice is given 25 years, Bob is given 30 years, and Charlie is given 35 years. So we are going to have another dictionary called people. So people is equals to name dot age. For name and age in, we zip them. So the first thing, we zip them, or even we bring them together, the name and the ages. So the first value within the name is going to take the first value within the ages. So you have Alice 25, Bob 30, and Charlie 35. That is the importance of zipping. So we first of all zip them. So for each, now after zipping, you're going to have a value, and you're going to have what we call a key value pair, name and age, name and age. That is what is going to happen. So for each name and age in the zipped list, change or even convert that into a dictionary. So for each name and age, remember these are now the keys. For the name and the age within the zipped file, or even within the zipped list, convert that into a dictionary. So the dictionary is going to have name and age, and then we use a for loop. For this one is equals to that. So then we call out our dictionary, which was people. And this will give us Alice 25, Bob 30, and Charlie 35. So for this one, the key is Alice, Bob, and Charlie. Those are the keys. And then the values, we have 25, 30, and 35. That is what we have. And that is it. So that is all about dictionaries. And in summary, or even to summarize on all the data structures that we've been talking about until the fifth session in this case, we can now compare them. So lists, we say that they are ordered, they are mutable, they allow for duplication. And then for tuples, we say that they are ordered, they are immutable, and they allow for duplication. Sets, we say that they are not ordered, they are mutable, but they do not allow for duplicates. And then dictionaries, we say that they are partly ordered for some versions. For Python versions that below 3.7, we see that those ones, they were actually not ordered. But for versions greater than, or even that came after Python version 3.7, they allowed for ordered, or even ordering of the values, the keys and the values. And then they are also mutable, and they also do not allow for duplication. They do not allow for duplication of keys. They do not allow for duplication of keys. So the key concepts that we've been learning about arithmetic operators, or even operations, and these are actually basic math operations in Python. We've also talked about lists, tuples, sets, dictionaries, and also next in line is functions. So we are going to be discussing about functions in our next session. So thank you very much for joining, and I believe that you've learned something. I believe that you are learning as well. Now, as usual, I'm going to be sharing this document with you on the comment section, or even on the video description. So feel free to download it and use it to work, or even use it for your practice. For your practice. So next, we are going to be discussing about Python functions. So do not forget to subscribe to this channel, and also give a like. If you are learning something, you can like the video, and also maybe ask any questions that you might have within the comment section, and I'll be able to reach out. And also I will be able to reach out. I'll be able to reach out to you when I come through the comments. You can also feel free to share this video with your friends, or anyone that you may have, anyone who is taking Python, or even anyone who is willing to learn Python. You can share it with them, and I believe that it's going to be an interesting journey together. Goodbyes.